All right, well, I'll be on the thesaurus for a half hour.
And oop!
Greetings, Internet. Welcome to But I'm Still a Good Person by Carolyn Nicholas. I'm your host, Carolyn Nicholas, and I'm joined by my vigorous husband, Vince Nicholas.
Hello, I like that. Vigorous Vince, they call me.
Hello, honey. Thank you for joining me at our dining room table for our little program here. Okay, so you and I have been on a documentary kick lately.
True crime documentary. We can't get enough.
And we have come across some really good ones.
Yes.
Today we're going to be talking about 3 documentaries we watched recently that just blew our minds, swept us in, engaged us fully.
Loved it, yeah.
And we can't get them out of our minds.
Yeah, one specifically I keep thinking about continually.
I don't know which one that is.
The Maya one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And oop!
I can't think of how to start my sentence except for so.
Okay.
So, I know I don't want to say so, but I'm going to say it.
And oop!
So, The Curious Case of Natalia Grace.
Yes.
Natalia is a little girl born in the Ukraine
Mm-hmm.
in 2003.
Yeah.
And she's born with a rare form of dwarfism.
Yes.
So upon her birth, she's removed from her mother's care, put into the adoption orphanage system.
Over there. Yeah.
Shortly after she's born, ends up in America.
Mm-hmm.
Under the care of several families before
Yeah.
finally being adopted by the infamous Christine and Michael Barnett.
Yes. Under very suspicious or auspicious circumstances, very bizarre. The adoption agency was like, okay, we have a girl for you. They wanted another kid. And adoption agency, we have another girl. We have a girl for you. You have to agree within 24 hours without ever meeting her, without any information. They do. They fly to Florida. The handoff is very odd. Like, they keep Natalia in one room and the Barnetts are in a separate room. So you get the sense that Natalia is saying goodbye to the previous family. And then they just waltz her into the next room and say, here's your new family. Yeah, very, very odd.
The adoption process was very shady.
Yeah.
Very strange, rushed, forced.
Yeah.
And so immediately they have her and they take her away from the adoption building and she's theirs all of a sudden.
She becomes a menace to society. Sociopathic behavior. She collects knives under her bed. She smears feces on furniture and their car seats. She displays a lot of anger, and who wouldn't have a lot of anger at that point, considering her life? But she's just a headache for them. They don't know how to deal with her. And there's videos of her acting bizarre, but she's a kid. But she's a kid who's lived dire circumstances. So who knows where the truth lies? Right.
I think it's pretty obvious when you're hearing the stories that she's been through a lot of trauma.
Yes.
Abandonment issues, neglect issues.
Yeah, and who knows what kind of foster care system they have over in the Ukraine. At one point, an investigator goes over there, finds a woman who knows her mom. Mom's on speaker. It's very odd. It goes through all reaches, but it's fascinating as heck. So the Barnett's solution,
yes, to what do we do with this kid that it seems they don't want to deal with or have anymore.
Right.
Well, after having her in their care for 2 years, the Barnetts petition with the county courts to update her birth records, changing her year of birth from 2000 to 1989.
Yeah.
So they instantly age her up.
Yeah.
They claim she's not a child, she's an adult.
Yeah.
And this is allegedly based on the fact that she was having a period at the age of 6.
Right.
She was having, her body was displaying changes that show that she's already gone through puberty.
Yeah. Her mom says something at one point on the phone, like, we've been dealing with her for 17 years. Who knows when this idea got into the Barnett's head, but they were like, this is our way out. We're going to run with it. So they re-age her, which is a whole process. They find a doctor who's like, okay, she's 22.
Yeah, and a lot of, like, how do you determine somebody's age?
Yeah.
Like,
no records.
Some people,
nothing.
Some people say it's based on, like, you could look at their dental, like, look at their teeth and, like, gauge what age they are. But that is wildly inaccurate.
Yeah, I say, are you ready to vote, Natalia? Would you like a beer? Oh, you're 21 then?
The doctor claims that the majority of his decision was based on Natalia herself saying, yes, I'm an adult. Yes,
Right.
I'm 18.
Yeah.
But who knows what really happened, because Christine and Michael, the parents, there's a lot of allegations of abuse, saying that they abused Natalia. They were telling her what to say to different authorities, and she was scared. She's a child. She's confused. So she just said and did what she was told to do.
She may be a child. And you see video of her, and she speaks like, I don't want to say a 22-year-old, but definitely not a 10-year-old or whatever, a small girl. So they get this approved. Wham, bam, she's 22. They're like, okay, here's an apartment. Get out of here. Here's your apartment. And so she has to go live on her own, and she may be 11 or 22 or whatever. And she has all sorts of issues. Well, again, it goes back to being a foster kid going through the system, different countries, but she doesn't know how to behave around people. And so all her neighbors, she acts so weird. She's bizarre. She never leaves us alone. But who can blame her on the other hand? But yeah, and it's to be continued. There's no resolution. I know you hate this, honey.
Yeah,
it's like the Spider-Verse. It's almost filler.
All these documentaries we've been watching, they end before these cases have actually gone to court.
Yeah.
And then you get like a little postscript after the credits roll.
Right.
This case will be going to court next year.
Yeah.
So that's my issue with all these documentaries, is that we don't really get a conclusion or a final outcome of everything. Yeah. So Natalia out in the world now, legally an adult.
Yeah.
She kind of bounces around. People in the neighborhoods don't know what to make of her. She lives in a couple different neighborhoods. Yeah. She finally finds a family that takes her in. Yeah. They believe her story. They believe she's the age she claims she is. And she takes the Barnetts to court for neglect. Yeah. But because she's legally an adult, it's not considered child abandonment. Yeah. But because she is disabled, you can be accused of abandoning your disabled adult child. Yeah. So that's what Michael Barnett goes to court for.
The case was so weird because the jurors could hear this evidence, but not this evidence, or this piece of information, and not this. So they don't know the whole story. It's very odd.
In the end, Michael Barnett was found not guilty of abandonment. Yeah. Michael Barnett. Yeah. That a whole other side of this case. This man is. How would you describe Michael Barnett, honey?
He's a freaking cartoon character. He's the best television to ever television. He's a nut job. He's completely over the top. He's out of his mind, and he's so gosh dang entertaining. And yeah, the doc stands on its own as a piece of entertainment content, but this guy is a nut job, and it's so fun to watch him just go out of his mind. At one point, he's reenacting abuse or hitting.
And oop.
At one point, he just starts pounding his fist into the ground. He's doing an interview, and he's like, I'm going to show you the abuse that was going on. He just starts wailing on the carpet, on the floor with his fist. It's the most... But it's great internet. It's great video. He's just immensely entertaining. He takes a good documentary and puts it like times a million. Michael Barnett, you are our hero, or you're a horrible human being, or
you're a monster, but you're entertaining as heck.
It's somewhere in the middle, just like everything. But yeah, Natalia Grace, thumbs up. Michael Barnett, big thumbs up. Definitely check it out. It's on Max, MAX.
Formerly HBO.
Yeah.
Okay. Another one we watched was on Netflix.
Mhm.
This is called Sins of Our Mother.
Yeah.
And this is a case you may have heard recently in the news about Lori Vallow
Yeah.
Daybell and Chad Daybell.
Lori's been deemed. Lori's been deemed
And doomed!
the doomsday mother and doomed. Yes.
Yeah, so Lori Vallow is...
And oop.
Lori Vallow is your conventionally attractive, middle-aged, blonde woman. The documentary goes through her early life. She goes through multiple husbands.
Yeah.
She has 3 kids. And she is a very religious person.
Mm-hmm.
But as time goes on, she becomes increasingly fanatical.
Yeah.
She's sort of... Her beliefs start to be on, like, the more fringe of... religion.
Worst of all, she starts a podcast. Oh my goodness, how dare she? The worst of the worst, am I right?
She befriends these other people who have these like doomsday, end of the world.
Right.
We talk to God directly, and we're very special.
Yeah.
And they do a podcast, and
they write books, and it's a small group, but they definitely have extreme beliefs. And then so.
Where things take a turn for the worse is Lori meets this guy named Chad Daybell, and he is kind of the leader of this little cult that they create.
Looks like Chris Farley.
He's an author. He's a fanatic.
Who isn't an author? We're broadcasters. He's a self-published author. Okay, the worst kind of author.
He has had a couple of near-death experiences, and because of this, he thinks that he has prophecies and visions, and he predicts that the world is going to end in July 2020, and 144,000 people will be saved from this.
Right, odd number.
Him and Lori, they come up with a ranking system. Everyone in the world is on this spectrum of dark to light, and so they start ranking Lori's family members, her children, her parents.
Yeah.
And
there's numbers assigned too. So D6 is the worst of the worst, and L6 is love and light.
They also label people as zombies, which means these people have been, their spirits have been replaced with an evil spirit, and it's no longer the real person. Right. And when someone is a zombie, well, that means Chad and Lori need to kill him. Yeah. So people start dropping like flies. Yeah. Lori's brother is in this cult with them, and Lori's brother is the one who actually does the killing. Yeah. But it's at the behest of Chad Daybell, essentially. Yes. So Lori's estranged husband is killed. Yeah. Chad's wife is killed. Yeah. Who else dies?
Well, ultimately, spoiler alert, she kills her and or Chad Daybell. Daybell, yeah. Odd last name. They kill 2 of Lori's kids. And one is special needs, little boy, and then he's like 6-ish. And then there's a teenage girl. It's freaking gruesome, okay? FYI. They burn them, and Daybell has some property in Idaho, and they just burn them, and they bury a shallow grave, and then, okay, so that happens. And then, like a month later, they get married. They go to Hawaii. They do the photo shoot. It's a grand old time. And you're like, no one knows about the deaths yet. But they're smiling. They're wearing white on the beach. It's a gorgeous ceremony.
The children are missing. Lori refuses to tell anyone where they are. Family is getting suspicious. Lori and Chad Daybell are completely devoid of emotion. Yeah. Seem totally calm. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. We understand. You don't understand. We know what's going on. They're just completely righteously justified in everything that they're doing, and they think they're literally doing God's work and what they're supposed to be doing for the end of the world.
At the point that her brother kills her ex-husband, shoots him at their house, Lori takes... Charles is the ex-husband. Lori takes his rental car, drives one of the kids to school, and they get Burger King on the way, and then they stop at Walgreens for
they buy some flip-flops.
So odd.
Lori comes back and the police are there. They're examining the body. She's giggling
Yeah.
to the sheriff.
She's smiling. She's putting it on.
Completely bizarre.
Yeah.
Just completely out of it.
Yeah.
This is a really engaging documentary. It's only 3 episodes, and we
Yes.
watched all 3 last night. Binged
Correct.
it.
Yeah.
So finally, the court or the police demand that Lori produces the children. Of
Right.
course, she doesn't.
Right.
So she's eventually taken into custody. The kids' bodies are found.
Yeah.
Lori and Chad are both in custody.
Lori has been found guilty. Chad is still awaiting trial.
Yeah. Eventually, they were charged. Both of them charged with murder.
Yeah.
So Chad's
Trial.
his trial's
Date,
upcoming
yeah.
September 2023, I believe.
Yeah.
So once again, no conclusion.
Fantastic, but a fantastic documentary.
Yeah.
It really grabs you. It's got religion. There are nut jobs, and they show. I don't know how they do this, but they get phone calls. Actually, a few of the documentaries we've been watching, they have phone calls, and I always thought that was legally you can't do that. But you see phone calls, you see text messages, you see emails, and it really puts it out there. And it's the best documentaries. You put the cameras on some nut jobs and some really eccentric people, and you just let them be wacky and crazy.
Yeah.
And this is what happens in these 3 dogs.
At the end of the day, we want to be entertained.
Yeah.
So these horribly tragic stories, you can tell them in a way that's boring and straightforward.
Yeah.
Or you can make me laugh along the way. And that's what I want. Okay?
There wasn't laughing in Michael Bennett. The Daybells not laughing, just in constant astonishment.
Yes.
Bewilderment.
Shocking twists and turns.
Yeah, just and they're playing these conversations of Lori and her son. And Lori Lori, for legal reasons, she's smart. She's not going to be like, oh, I killed a couple kids. But she's like, I did what I had to do. And it's like, wow, you're so freaking cold and calculated, lady.
Right. I felt really bad for her one living child.
Yeah.
He's older. He was in his 20s when all of this happened. So he wasn't under her care, which is why he was spared from this, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I felt so bad for him. He seems really like level-headed and put together, and
he's married.
Can you
he's
imagine?
got a kid.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, and he's just taking it all in because he's on the sideline for the most part. But he must think every day, every night, every second, I should have done more because these are his sisters and brother, and he's trying to contact them. But they don't respond. They don't respond for a long time. And then Lori eventually cuts him off, blocks him, or turns off their phone. And so he must just replay it in his mind all the time. Like, I should have done more. I should have called the police. I should have gone over there. I should have intervened. But he didn't.
Yeah.
And it's a freaking sad tale. But great documentary. Great entertainment. Do you have any misgivings? Do you have any feelings about being entertained by real life crime? I know this is sort of a thing.
I do. It's an interesting question of, do we even deserve to have these shows made into content for us to be paying money to watch and being entertained by?
Yeah. Do we? Well, what about the other, like that Dahmer thing that came out? And it was, they're profiting off Jeffrey Dahmer's horror, but that's taking a factual events and then putting a fictitious spin, hiring actors, whatever.
Right.
So do you have problems with that? Is one different than the other?
I have more of a problem with like a scripted movie about an event as opposed to a documentary.
Oh, right. Yeah.
There's a little bit of a difference there, and especially when you hear the families speaking out and saying, we don't approve of this. This is misrepresenting. This is disrespectful to our dead family member.
Yeah.
I feel really bad, and I don't really want to partake.
Yeah. As opposed to, we have the family members speaking and on the record and giving their side, instead of just hiring a director. The Ryan Murphy did that, right? The Dahmer thing.
Yeah.
And just him having his way and twisting it, spinning it, because that's what you have to do when you make a movie. I don't have bad feelings about consuming this as entertainment because this happened, and it's good to be aware of it. You can't let it overtake you and be like, this is happening everywhere. I just think of it as like a tiny 0.0000% of people do this, act like this, behave like this, and it's fascinating. It's you're always like the motive, every crime. What's the motive? Why'd they do this? And 100% of the time, you never get the motive, or it's unclear because someone died or the killer or whatever. But I don't have a problem with it. But it does affect me, and I do feel sad that this happened. And thank God it doesn't happen to me or you or us or anyone in our lives. But let's move on to the third one, honey.
Third and final, Take Care of Maya, which is also on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
This is a story of an anguished couple in Florida who battle authorities for custody of their ailing daughter after they have been accused of child medical abuse.
Yes. So,
Okay, so there's a family, mom and dad. They have a son and a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Happy, thriving family.
Yeah.
When their daughter is about 9 years old, she starts experiencing some strange medical issues. She has horrible stomach pain. She loses the ability to move her arms and legs.
Yeah.
Her feet turn inward.
Yeah.
She's in constant full body pain.
Yeah.
And the parents take her to various doctors. No one can diagnose it. And they finally find this guy.
Yeah.
Dr. Kirkpatrick.
Sure.
I think. And he identifies her he gives her a diagnosis. It's called complex regional pain syndrome. And it primarily affects teenage girls.
Mm-hmm.
And what he's found that can help with this is low doses of ketamine.
Yes.
And ketamine is like a drug they give horses.
Yes.
And it's also like a party drug.
Right.
That people use in the clubs.
Yeah.
But in low dosages, it can be like medically beneficial. So he starts giving her low doses of ketamine. That's still not helping. So this doctor recommends that the parents take her to Mexico.
Yeah.
This has to be done in Mexico.
Because you can't do it in America.
What they're going to do is they put her in a medically induced 5 to 7 day coma where they give her large amounts of ketamine.
Yeah, they jack her full of ketamine, and then she slips into a coma, and the doctor was like, she might not wake up, she might die, and they're like, well, they're at their wits' end because they've been through the system, and no one can diagnose it except this one guy. So they fly down to Mexico, and there's video, and the mom recorded a bunch of phone calls, did tons of video, and you see this little girl, this young girl, in a freaking coma for days and days. And spoiler, she wakes up okay, but it's still just like that messes with my mind. I still think about it. Like, you have to go to that extreme to help your daughter.
Yeah. So luckily she wakes up, and
hi.
She a lot of her pain is gone. So this medically induced coma actually worked.
Yeah.
A lot of her pain is gone. They come home.
Yeah. It's not. She's not completely cured, but she's much better. Yeah. She can play with her brother and all that stuff.
So she keeps seeing.
And she's doing rehab also. She's like.
Yeah, physical therapy type stuff. She keeps seeing this doctor. Stays under his care. They continue to give her low dosages of ketamine. Mm-hmm. That's like her pain maintenance, and it's on an ongoing basis. So she's good for like a year or so. And then one day she relapses and the pain comes back like in full force.
Yeah. And
her parents don't know what to do. They take her to the emergency room at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital in Florida.
Yeah.
They take her to the ER. The doctors they've never heard of complex regional pain syndrome.
Right.
They have no idea what that is. They have no idea what's wrong with this girl. So they admit her, And pretty quickly, they become very suspicious of this child's diagnosis, the fact that the parents say she needs ketamine, that's her medicine.
Yeah.
So almost immediately, the child services intervene.
Yeah.
I think every hospital, or at least every children's hospital in the United States, they have social workers who are like hospital staff social workers.
Yeah, on staff, yeah.
And if there's anything suspicious going on with a child, they automatically do like a child welfare check.
Yeah.
And in the documentary, it talks about how this medical abuse is kind of a new phenomena within the like CPS and child abuse. It's kind of a recent thing that's been, a lot of parents are getting their children taken away for child medical abuse. Yeah. Sometimes or oftentimes the parents are accused of Munchausen by proxy.
Right.
And the mom in this case, they actually did an evaluation and she was found that she did not have Munchausen by proxy.
And can you explain Munchausen by proxy?
That's when a parent purposefully makes their child sick or prevents their child from being healed. Yeah. Because they like the attention. Right. They like the drama of it. Right. But in this case, Maya's mom did not, that was not the issue with her. However, they still took Maya into custody. Yeah. She stayed in the hospital for months.
Yeah, you see her just sitting in this hospital bed wasting away because she can't move much. She's almost immobile. And so she's just sitting there, laying there, hours and hours. And then the documentary, that's when it really takes a turn into, and it focuses on the child welfare and the government and the system and what they do. At one point, so she can't call her mom. But then at a certain point, they're like, okay, well, you can talk on the phone with a government employee, a child welfare worker on the line also. But mom, you can't ask anything specific about the treatment. You can't ask how she's doing. You can't ask how the care is. So the mom would be like, how was your day? Are you feeling better? And the third party, a lady, also on the phone, mom, you need to redirect that question. And so this happens a couple times in the course of a few minutes. You need to redirect that. And so it's so odd that she can't ask how her kid's doing because they're keeping up this wall that she could be an abuser. She is an abuser. Very, very, very odd. Spoiler alert, the mom commit suicide. She just can't. Well, after only a few months.
There's a day where they go to court they're before a judge to try to once again get custody of their daughter back. Yeah. Judge not only denies them that, doesn't even let the mom requests, can I please give Maya a hug? Right. Judge says no. Yeah. And that night is when the mom goes home and kills herself. Yeah. Maya at this point is only about 11 years old, 12 years old maybe. Pretty immediately after the mom's death, they release her back to the father. So she's given back to her family.
The documentary really focuses on and drills down on a care worker by the name of Susan Smith, unfortunately named after the lady who drove her kids into a freaking lake.
Oh, dear.
Them. Yeah. But anyways, Susan Smith, and that she keeps Maya in the hospital, keeps mom away from Maya. But so the whole time you're like, is Susan Smith a terrible person, or does she really believe that something is going on here? This job, CPS, child welfare, DCFAS, whatever you want to call it, I don't envy it. It's super difficult, super hard to make that call.
It's got to be one of the worst jobs to have. Yeah.
Do you think she's a terrible person, or she's just very cautious?
I think she has good intentions. Yeah. And I think a lot of people who work in CPS and child welfare, I think I think number one, they want the kids to be protected and safe.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes their judgment is clouded.
Yeah.
I think they oftentimes don't really listen to the parents or give the parents a chance. It's hard to say. I think overall CPS does more harm than good. And I didn't used to think that, but after hearing more stories, after watching this documentary, I've listened to a couple podcasts over the last year.
Yeah.
And it seems like child services doesn't protect kids that need it.
Yeah.
And harms and tears apart families who don't deserve it.
But you need a layer there, right? You need an organization to kind of take it in and make a judgment in the case of abusers. Don't you? I would think so.
Right. I know. I
it's
agree
impossible.
with you.
It's an impossible task.
Absolutely. And then there's that other documentary on Netflix, which was huge, The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez, that came out a few years ago.
Yeah.
Horrible, heartbreaking story of parents who abused their child, and he ended up dead. Yeah. And CPS was involved. Yeah. CPS was tried in court for failing to for falsifying records, failing to do what they're supposed to do, essentially not intervening. So you have that extreme, and then you have there were so many there were so many stories and examples in the Maya documentary of other families. Yeah,
once the story comes out in the newspapers and TV or whatever, people just start pouring in to reporters, calling them, emailing with their own stories. That this is widespread. This issue. I maintain that anything at the state level is widespread. Nothing is 100% perfect. Nothing. And so a case here, a case there on the local level, statewide, nationwide, it's going to look like a huge problem. It's impossible. But like you said, you also every year or whatever, you hear a story of social workers paid a welfare visit to a house, and oh look, there's a little Sarah, she looks fine. They check some boxes and they're like, all right, see you later. And lo and behold, Sarah is like chained in the basement or whatever.
Right.
You hear those stories. I would not do that job for $1 million. Super difficult. Just having that on my mind when you make a mistake that results in a kid who's really abused or a kid dies. I do not envy them. But the documentary definitely had a side, and I feel bad for Susan Smith, to be perfectly blunt. So there is bias in this documentary. She doesn't talk, and why would you talk? I mean, what would you say? But overall, there's issues with CPS, but that's gonna happen. There's issues with everything. And it makes into a good documentary and entertaining. But yeah, the two things that I continue to think about are the parents flying down and just putting her into a coma in the hopes that she gets better, and she's fine now. She's perfectly like just a teenage girl now. Not 100%, but she's there. She's on camera. She's doing interviews. She walks around. She's
functioning. Pretty normally, it seems.
Yeah.
And physically, at least, she seems emotionally, obviously, just a wreck.
Yeah.
And her brother and her father.
Yeah.
Like this whole thing is just
it's dragging on, and the hospital. You talk about big pharma and lobby and money and interest groups and legal costs and how things can get tied up in court, and the firm representing this group of hospitals is they just put things off and they bring things up and things get delayed and Maya and her dad and brother they just want resolution, but it's not coming. But yeah, the coma and then the Susan Smith of it all, extremely difficult issue. There is no right answer, but hopefully we get some entertainment out of it. I know that sounds horrible, but it is what it is. Okay.
Yeah, really sad all around.
Yeah.
And like you said, like, what's the answer? What's the solution? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because
I don't have it.
neither do I. And
the solution is to make documentaries. Yeah, but the podcast you listened to was about the Texas system, right?
Yeah, in Texas, there was a child who died. CPS was involved, but they didn't remove the child, or they seemed to not have done enough.
Yeah.
So it ended up in court, and the guy, the head of the child welfare system really came down hard on his employees. Yeah. I never want this to happen again. And so they've really cracked down on intervening, removing children, like remove, as opposed to doing more thorough investigation. So this was focused on what happens specifically in this area in Texas. And again, it's a lot of a kid falls and hits their head. Parents take them to the doctor. Mm-hmm. They're seen pretty immediately by a social worker in the hospital, and they're not told they're not told that this is a CPS social worker person. They think it's a medical person. Right. So parents are just, they're caught off guard. They don't know what's going on. And all of a sudden, they're right there in the hospital. Their child is removed from their care. Mm. A lot of parents end up going to jail, being imprisoned. Yeah. It's so hard because obviously I don't want kids to be in the home with someone that was abusing them. Right. But it seems we're hearing more and more stories about parents who are innocent, who children are taken away, and then they have to go through such an ordeal to get them back. Sometimes it takes years. The children end up being in foster care, being not taken great care of in foster care. Right. Yeah, that's a whole nother issue. Nursing babies taken away from their mother, and just it's... Yeah, I couldn't imagine it happening to you. I mean, you've had to take Len to the hospital a few times recently, but it's really scary. Does someone come into the room and say, what's up with that broken wrist, Lennox? But that hasn't happened, thank God. It's really scary when your kids are so young that they can't talk. Because when the kids can't talk, right, then it's immediate. It's like child abuse is the first thing that, according to these stories that we hear, the first thing that goes to the minds of the doctors and the medical people. I could absolutely see that. My baby fell, has a bruise, take him to the hospital. My baby has a bruise. And, well, they jumped to conclusions. I would err on the side of caution, okay? No one would get away with jack. I know. If I was a social worker, I'd be like, oh, well, I tried my best. Instead of just collecting a paycheck and saying, seems okay. He seems like a nice guy or whatever. It's so easy to make judgments. Yeah. And, immediately put people in a box. Oh, I don't like your gruff appearance. I don't like the way you're talking in your brain. And so you immediately assume you're a bad person. Yeah. I mean, doctors and social workers we're all humans with biases and just like, we're all making immediate judgments about people. Very superficial. Yeah. And of course, none of us want children being hurt. Right. So it's a difficult thing to figure out what's right, what should be done, what could be done differently. Yeah. Well, it will never be figured out. But it's another entertaining documentary. Go through the titles one more time, honey. The Curious Case of Natalia Grace. Yes, Michael Bennett. Best comedy on TV. Best comedy on the internet. Good video. Sins of Our Mother. Yes, very good. Lori Vallow. Nut Job. Doomsday Mother. Yeah. Take Care of Maya. Yeah. And the saddest, the saddest of the three. Oh, they're all freaking sad. Okay. Well, this was a downer of an episode. Yes. Well, it's a downer of a world that we live in. Alrighty. Well, that's the end of the program. It's been fun, but not really. Let's all try a little harder next time. We will. Like, comment, subscribe, follow, review, and rate, or don't. Do whatever you want. You're a grown-up. Make your own decisions. Do what's best for your family. Please be sure to use our promo code for Helix Mattress. We don't have a promo code for Helix Mattress. Goodbye, my podcast friends. I love you. My Husband and I love you.
Hello.
We hope you have a good day today and tomorrow. And sure,
we may find entertainment in horrifying crimes. Well, what do you want us to do?
But we're still good people, and I'm still a good person. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Thank you for caring. I hope you have a wonderful day /night. Bye-bye.
Yay.